Again.
Well, good afternoon. It is so delightful to see you all and to be present with everyone. I am your Associate Conference Minister for Church Vitality and Transitions, Lawrence Richardson, and I will be leading us today in our gathering prayer and facilitating this conversation on behalf of our conference minister. And I look forward to our conversation today. But before we get started, let's just begin with a word of prayer. Dear God, we just thank you for this day, for this opportunity to come together for the United Church of Christ and for the resolutions of witness and for the prudential resolutions that are coming before us as a body. We ask that you be present in our deliberations and in our decision making, in our preparation, in our prayers, and in our acts of service and witness as we are fulfilling our call and our mandate to be your heart, your hands, your feet, and your mind in this world, and on behalf of the United Church of Christ. We ask that you bless this conversation and those who are with us and those who, for whatever reason, are unable to be with us today. We thank you for your presence, your peace, your grace, and your mercy that follows us all the days of our lives. And we say, in conclusion to this prayer together, Amen. Well, good afternoon, friends. And I just want to reiterate that it is so great to see you all today. We have a conversation that we are going to have, and it is about the resolutions that are being brought before the General Synod. So, this isn't a conversation about General Synod travel or the details leading up to Synod that might impact our different arrangements. This is specifically about the resolutions, and there are some controversial ones. There are some timely ones, and we have representatives here, delegates that are here to speak to the resolutions. And then after we have our delegates speak to each of the resolutions, kind of talking about it from their perspective and just a few minutes about what their hopes and expectations are as they're entering into this process. We're going to open it up for some dialogue and conversation as a group. And we have a few leading questions, but I'm hoping there might be some burning questions that you all bring as well. And I just want to thank Jen Ringgold for being our tech support and all things communications today. And just want to say a warm greeting to each of you. And if you are a delegate and you are ready to kind of begin, I just want to say thank you for your words, but I want you to raise your hand so that we can make sure that we call on all of the delegates that are present with us. And then when we call on you, if you could say your name and the committee that you're representing, that would be great. And then give us a couple of minutes about your resolution. So I saw Jeffrey Dick's hand first. So if it's all right with you, Jeff, I would love to start with you. You can go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself and what committee you're on, and I'll mute my line so that we can hear you plain and clear.
So I'm Jeffrey Dick in Wyoming, Grand Rapids, and I have resolution committee number 9. This is the quorum resolution, which is the Council for Racial and Ethnic Ministries. And it's a resolution calling on the denomination to strongly oppose recent immigration policy rollbacks and urging the church to support and protect immigrant communities, particularly those from Pacific Islander and Asian American backgrounds. And it's calling for efforts on behalf of immigrants and refugees and indigenous people, and also calling for increased funding for the Council for Racial and Ethnic Ministries. The resolution specifically refers to significant increases in arrest and deportations in Hawaii of people who had legal standing there, and refers to the Compact of Free Association that allows citizens from the Federated States of 7 Micronesia and the Marshall Islands to live and work legally in the U.S. This is an emergency resolution, and I must admit that while I've been aware of immigration issues with ICE in the states in the continental U.S., I was unaware of how much was going on in Hawaii and other areas like that. So my only question is, it doesn't get into specifics about the funding, but I think it's at least implying that there would hopefully be some increased funding.
Thank you for that overview, Jeffrey. It's really helpful to hear about committee work or committee number 9's work. So thank you very much. And Jen has put in the chat. Jen, would you like to speak to that? There are a lot of words and there's a lot of language in our resolutions. And so thank you for highlighting this. And I certainly want to hear your thoughts as well, Jen. But what we're really talking about is the so what of it all, the therefore be it resolved. In each of our resolutions, look for those lines because that is really the meat of what we're going to be voting on, talking about, and really putting our efforts toward. The committees have done the work leading up to this. And really, the therefore be it resolved is where we, as delegates and as the General Synod body, focus our efforts. Jen, would you like to add anything else to that? Because I see you added it in the chat.
Ultimately, I'm adding links in the chat and so that folks can follow along if they want to look more in depth. I think Jeff did an awesome job summarizing the therefore be it resolves. But again, Lawrence, thank you for highlighting that. As our delegates are preparing to go to Synod, the teams of people that have written all these resolutions have done an amazing job summarizing and then giving reasons for why they're bringing this resolution, but ultimately what the Synod will vote on and what the meat of the matter are those therefore be it resolves. That's what the Synod will call on churches for. So thanks.
Thank you, Jen. So do we have another delegate that would be willing to speak? Next, PL Cross, thank you for raising your hand. You can go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself and your resolution.
Hi, I'm P.L. Cross from Portage United Church of Christ in the Southwest Association. I'm on Committee 8, which deals with immigrants. That's similar to Jeffrey's committee. When I first read it, I thought it was going to be a no-brainer, but because but um, but because of the political stuff that's going on right now, basically what this is that that it be resolved that the Synod will affirm that all who those are made in God's image will be afforded basic human rights, including constitutional rights to due process, because basically what's going on now is they're taking people and taking them to El Salvador and other countries. Other things that they said was uh, that the United Church of Christ will denounce all attempts by the federal government to violate basic human rights of immigrants, migrants, refugees. The other thing that's really interesting that the president invoked is the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 and the 1951 Refugee Convention, that they want to affirm that the federal stands in violation of this. Um, Also, the other part of it, that they want to denounce all violations of the Constitution, federal law, then especially with this guy that that went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they brought him back, and now he got arrested. It calls upon the national setting, conferences, associations, local congregations to reaffirm their commitment to protect and advocate and serve our immigrant, migrant, refugee neighbors. It talks about calling upon United Church funds and UCC boards in all settings of UCC to review their investment profiles to determine whether they hold investments in for-profit private detention businesses, other things, core civic. There's a lot. There's a lot into it. They're also part of this resolution is encouraging the national setting, conferences, associations, and local churches, associations, also determine if they hold any investments for profits in any of that. There's about 3 or 4 other, but it says finally as resolved, to increase the capacity and resources to support and advocate for immigrant welcoming sanctuary congregations during this time. And I know that there are UCC congregations, especially in Grand Rapids. There used to be one in Kalamazoo that was a sanctuary church. So I think this is going to be a very interesting and volatile committee.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I appreciate that overview. And I see that Chad O'Neill is also on committee number 8. Chad, is there something that you'd like to add or share on behalf of just your engagement with the work so far and what you're kind of looking forward to?
Yeah, this is oh gosh. this resolution hits really close to home. Without getting into too many specifics, although my last name is O'Neill, my mother's maiden name is Hernandez, and her family lives in Texas. And so, as this stuff, I'm just going to say, has always been happening. Um, it, yeah, it, I've been since I saw the email with the assignment, I've been actively reflecting on how I can both bring my heart and passion surrounding this concern, and also try and stay clear-headed enough to have civil conversation. And so I think I'll leave it there for now. But it's this is a part of our history, particularly as we think of our Mexican neighbors. There's large portions of what we understand of our country that were taken, and the people who live there became non-entities. And so this is not just a story of today and tomorrow. This is a story of a part of our country's traditions and heritage, that I'm glad that the church is addressing. But I think it's important that this discussion be rooted in one of the many long-standing wrongs that I think we're called as a church to address. But again, I'll get up on the pulpit as a hospital chaplain, and we don't want that to happen. But I appreciate the attention to this issue.
Well, and I appreciate your feedback as well. I'm also on the National Board of Directors for the UCC, and my committee assignment as the board member is committee number 8. And so, for the reasons that you and PL both have named, this resolution really is a timely one, and I look forward to continued dialogue as we move forward about it. So, thank you so much for those committee members who have spoken. Is there someone else who would like to share next? I see Lori Grinnell. Thank you so much. You can go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself and your committee and the work that you have before you.
Hi, I'm Lori Grinnell. I serve Salem United Church of Christ in Albion. I live in Jackson. I am assigned committee number 2. I apologize. I don't do well with other languages besides English, so I'm just going to say the Puerto Rican church rather than butcher its proper name. This is a resolution to enter into full communion. It, to me, is a beautiful response to Jesus' prayer that is foundational for the formation of the United Church of Christ, that we would all be one. My concern about it is entering into full communion with the Puerto Rican church means that all of their ordained clergy can serve any of our UCC churches, but our LGBTQIA+ clergy will not be accepted in their churches. So this resolution is discriminatory against some of our UCC ordained clergy. But I wonder if that plants seeds to help the Puerto Rican church maybe become closer to open and affirming. I don't know. I'm going to listen very closely as we study this at Synod and as those debates happen. My current feeling is that I support it because that prayer of Jesus is a piece of our prime directive as the United Church of Christ. And to not support this is anti that prayer of unity. But I try to live my life very much as an advocate for the LGBTQ people. And so I'm feeling very conflicted.
Thank you, Lori, and for naming that. It's a contentious, controversial, but again, timely conversation to be having. And you share something that I want to lift up, is that these resolutions certainly speak to the churches, but they don't speak for them. And that's the distinction. And I think that you're raising something that's really vital, that we bring our own questions and discernment, and every delegate votes their conscience, and we're having this conversation together and hopefully can arrive at a space together. So thank you for that. And yes, Dan loves the Star Trek reference. That's wonderful. And Jen, would you like to speak to the previous conversation about this that has been brought to Synod, just to shed some light on where this is coming from and might go to?
My history is a little shady. It was my very first synod that I attended as a visitor, and I remember there being a lot of conversation about full communion with the Puerto Rican Church. I don't know if it was actually a resolution or if it was just a topic of conversation at that point. But I'm excited to see that it's a formal request for this General Synod, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you again, Lori. We have Ralph Sims, we have Zach Nevenzel, we have Jeff Rhodes. Would any of y'all want to go next to talk about your work as a committee and your resolution?
I'll go. I wasn't sure I was going to be speaking, but I am on Resolution 7 regarding Christian persecution in India. It's an issue that I'm not real educated on and wasn't really aware of, but over the past 10 years, the Hindu nationalist kind of party has been persecuting religious minorities, in particular Christians and Muslims in northern states of India. And there's been, all types of oppression, some violence, and just kind of displacement of tens of thousands, mostly down to more southern states. Yeah, a lot more that I could learn about the situation going on. It resolves mainly that the UCC Synod condemns violations against religious minorities in India. It calls for solidarity. The National Council of Churches and the United Methodist Church have apparently also passed similar resolutions, so solidarity with them. It calls for working with the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom on a few different fronts. And lastly, it calls for UCC members to become politically engaged in these going-ons in any way that they can. And from I'm for it from my limited understanding at this point.
Well, thank you for that. And as the learning and conversation continues, I'm sure we'll all be engaging much more. But it sounds pretty straightforward. I mean, they all do for the most part until we start having the conversation, right? So thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. Ralph Sims. Oh,
I can go. Yeah, I can go next. That's fine.
Oh, go ahead, Ralph. Go ahead.
I have number 11, Declaration for an End of Genocide in Palestine. It's a emergency resolution denouncing the actions of the State of Israel in partnership with the United States government, which in some amount to genocide against the Palestinian people. It denounces the targeted killings of civilians, including children, medical workers, and journalists in Gaza. It calls on all settings of the United Church of Christ, including the national setting, conferences, associations, and the local congregations to act in solidarity with the Palestinian people, considering the ongoing genocide being implemented by the State of Israel and the ongoing support of the United States, which enables it. Haven't gone through haven't gone through it in its entirety, but I'll give you a couple of the be it resolves. Oh. Be it resolved that the 35th General Synod of the United Church of Christ adopts the following declaration. We affirm that all those made in God's image are deserving of life free from oppression, persecution, and violence. We denounce all acts of all acts of the United States government and the state of Israel that contribute to the continuation of the genocide of the Palestinian people. We affirm the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people perpetrated by the state of Israel in partnership with the U.S. is a humanitarian crisis and calls for immediate action. We reject any theology or ideology, including Christian Zionism, secessionism, anti-Semitism, anti-Arab, and anti-Palestinian, or anti-Islam bias. We affirm the obligation of the U.S. to recognize the international law, immediately cease all sales and transfers of military arms and financial support to the state of Israel, and use all legal and diplomatic tools to help bring about a permanent peace, which includes protection of the rights of Palestinians to live in their homeland free from violence and to uphold their human rights, to be released from military occupation, the rights of refugees to return to their homes, and their right to self-determination. We affirm the obligation of the state of Israel to immediately end the attacks on Palestinians, end military occupation, and to expedite critical aid to enter Gaza and pay restitution to the Palestinian people. We reject the idea that any criticism of policies of the state of Israel is inherently anti-Semitic, and we oppose the efforts of the U.S. federal and state governments to limit free speech. Be it further resolved that all settings of the United Church of Christ be encouraged to receive this resolution as a prophetic call and commit to. I wanted something I didn't really know what I was going to get, but I wanted something I could sink my teeth into, and I guess I got my wish.
It sounds like it. It sounds like there is certainly a lot to chew on there. And thank you for your committee work and involvement, Ralph. It's just really helpful to hear the summaries of all of these different resolutions and to really be able to just kind of have this bird's eye view. And as you all continue to sink your teeth in, it's just great to share what we're learning together, because unfortunately we all don't get to serve on every single committee, and we don't all get to hear the nuance of the committee work. So thank you.
Just one final thought, Lawrence, if I could.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
listening to, dare I say, NPR, and there was a Israeli, I'm not sure whether he was a journalist or a politician, but he actually called what was going on in Gaza, he called it a genocide. I mean, he wasn't, and I think he should know the area and know the politic, and they're kind of moving the people around and taking food away from them, and there was a settlement question even before all this other stuff started happening. Recently, Israelis were moving settlements into Gaza, so I should have a lot to report when it's all said and done, hopefully.
Yeah. When it's all said and done, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. We have Jeff Rhodes, and would you like to speak to your committee and resolution, Jeff?
Yeah, Lawrence, and hi, Jen. I'm going as a board member of the Michigan Conference, and so John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think I'm assigned to any of these committees. So I'll be floating and doing as I am told, but I'm looking forward to it.
That sounds fantastic. Well, we look forward to you floating and doing all the things.
Thanks, Lawrence.
I can speak briefly to committee number 3 because we don't have Patty Higgins here with us, but I can just briefly share that it is the Small Town and Rural Coalition of the United Church of Christ that is requesting to be recognized as a formal group. 64% of all of our congregations in the UCC, and we have roughly 4,600 congregations. 64% of those congregations fall in the category of small town and rural. And so the therefore be it resolved is that the small town and rural coalition of the UCC be included in the United Church of Christ bylaws, Article 6, as a self-determining group. And so that sounds pretty straightforward, but again, until we get on the floor, we really don't know where things will be. But I look forward to continuing that conversation as well. And I know our conference minister will be working alongside committee number 5, and she's unable to be with us today. So Jen, would you mind speaking to committee number 5 and the work before that committee?
Yeah, so the really wonderful thing, thank you, Jeff, for sharing that you'll be attending Synod not as a delegate that will be voting on the floor, but and a committee member, but as somebody from the board who will be there representing the Michigan Conference at the General Synod. I am going as conference staff and as a visitor as well. I'm not serving on a committee, but as this process all unfolds, I was one of the writers of resolution number 5, which is faithful stewardship of Our Whole Lives lifespan, age appropriate, comprehensive sexuality curriculum, and advocacy for comprehensive sexuality education in faith communities through our interfaith collaboration with the Unitarian Universalist Association. OWL, as it is sometimes called, has been a huge part of my own personal ministry, and I get to serve on the advisory board for Amy Johnson, who's our national staff, who works with the national staff, Dr. Melanie Davis at the UUA. And this particular resolution is asking for, one, a celebration of the fact that we've been in this interfaith partnership with UUA for more than 25 years. This is the 25th anniversary of the Our Whole Lives curriculum in 2025. And then the second piece is a call on local churches to not necessarily run OWL in its full form, but to start engaging in the values and learning more about the curriculum, learning about the values of sexual health, self-worth, responsibility, and inclusivity and justice. And so it's just a really neat way to, one, highlight this 25-year relationship, and then ask for a little bit more engagement with these topics from a local church standpoint. So that's resolution number 5.
Wow. And there's just, again, there's so much to chew on, but what a great anniversary to celebrate as well. The partnership between the United Church of Christ and the Unitarian Universalist Association to come together. And there has been a lot of great fruit from that partnership. And OWL is a really great example of faithfulness and stewardship at its best. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to briefly, before I open it up for some conversation and discussion, just say that there was a resolution that was brought before the committee that ultimately did not make it to Synod, and it was the psychedelics resolution. The full name of that I don't have off the top of my head, but there were a number of folks from Michigan and folks nationwide that were signers and writers, contributors to this resolution. And unfortunately, there were no delegates on the resolution. And so that was the technicality that prevented that resolution from moving forward to the General Synod body. And so just so you know, a lot of work went into that. And certainly, as is the case with all of our resolutions, and resolutions do need delegates to be signers in order to move forward. And so just wanted to make sure that that was put out there, just in case people were wondering where that went, or why we weren't talking about that. But we do have an opportunity to have a conversation. Are there questions that you have for one another about what you've heard, or what you are hoping to hear once you're kind of on the floor, or once you're hearing folks speak from the floor? Any thoughts that came up for you? And if so, just feel free to unmute and just begin speaking. I see Greg Briggs has unmuted.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Laura Lee for being on the one with the Puerto Rican thing, because in my heart it's a really challenging thing, because it's putting two of our core commitments kind of in tension with one another. One is, the idea of being in full fellowship and unity, and also it's for, advocating for those that are marginalized, in this case, the LGBTQ thing. I, I'm not a delegate. I'm just going to be there as a visitor. But it's on my heart a lot in terms of how do we balance those things out versus, what goes into the resolution versus what other conversations take place, so that, is there a way that we can do both? And there's no real answer for that yet. So my heart's with you.
Yeah, I share that. I mean, you said it perfectly. It puts our commitments in tension, and it's a challenge, and it's an opportunity.
Well, and just to be clear, I want to give full attribution to that. That came from Stephen Ray, Reverend Dr. Stephen Ray. He's been doing a lot of chatting on his own personal Facebook page about it, and has really helped me form my own thoughts as well.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Any thoughts, questions that you want to share as it relates to these resolutions?
So Dan just put in the chat asking about the Keystone Conference Prudential resolution that will be voted on. I'm going to read the question in the chat about combining all four of the Pennsylvania conferences into a single conference. And that is, it's listed in the General Synod. The link that I've been sharing is something that will come before the General Synod. The kind of similar to what happened several years ago with Southern New England, where there were smaller conferences that all combined to form a larger one. Similar conversation is taking place in Pennsylvania. They've been working for the four conferences to all become one, which would be known as the Keystone Conference. And so that is listed on the General Synod Resolutions website as well. The folks who, we don't have any of our delegates here who are assigned to that, but yeah.
Thank you for that, Jen. And so, yeah, it's certainly, I'll read the therefore be it resolved, and it is just for the 35th General Synod of the United Church of Christ to recognize the Keystone Conference, created with geographic boundaries encompassing those previously of the Penn West, Penn Central, Pennsylvania Southeast, and Penn Northeast conferences, effective January 1st, 2026, and then therefore be it further resolved, that the 35th General Synod would grant this new Keystone Conference of the UCC standing as a conference in the UCC.
So Lori asked in the chat, is there a con to Keystone? And I would love to hear people thinking. So Greg just put a chat, but if anybody would like to speak to that, I think that's this is exactly what this is for.
A few hands, yeah. Dan,
go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, everybody.
So having attended Lancaster Seminary, I was in Lancaster back in May, and talking with some of the folks, and there's some of the clergy in Pennsylvania, there's some concern about, what this will do to the smaller churches, especially in Penn West, and how they will be, served from a larger conference. And I wonder, given the mass number of churches within those four conferences, I mean, I don't know if this will be the largest conference within the United Church of Christ or not. I'll have to do some digging on that, but certainly we give them some political power within the denomination, and that raises a question for me.
Yes, and it sounds like you are not alone in that question in terms of what does it do for smaller churches. Greg, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer observation. So I recently was a member of, serving in the Vermont conference, but serving a church in Massachusetts. So I was straddling Southern New England and Vermont conference. And some of the same things that we're talking about here are talked about in New England as well. The Southern New England conference becoming a mega conference. And then, particularly how the Vermont people were reflecting on, how that played out and how it's affecting a variety of different access to things. So again, it's the individual thing is, one, is Pennsylvania, but it's also like looking at a larger trend of, are we starting to move towards more larger centralized things? And what does that mean for the ones that are not going in that direction? And gets into, access of power, money, influence, resources, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it consolidates a lot in a small area, that's for sure. So we do have some cons for this particular resolution. Are there others? I know that Dan, you had some things in the chat, and then you had your hand up as well. Are there things that you would like to add?
No, I just, Jeffrey and others have kind of echoed my concerns, which frankly I had never thought of until Lillian raised some of those issues at one of our delegate orientation gatherings about the whole idea of the combining of people, churches, into not necessarily a mega conference. And aren't we supposed to be for unity? I mean, it can be a real double-edged sword sometimes. So, wish I was going to be with y'all.
Yes, and we unfortunately will be missing you as well, Dan, and also are glad that you are getting the care and the time that you need. So thank you for that. And these are really important issues that people are raising, whether it's honoring the Keystone Conference and what that might do to smaller churches or even smaller conferences, or if we're looking at, you know, honoring our commitment to the Puerto Rican Conference and what does that look like when there are people, that we are also committed to that are marginalized and LGBTQ folks, people of color, lesser resourced people. And then we're having conversations about resources and immigration. And these are really huge topics that it takes a lot of time to really digest and to also to discern where we are individually and as a church. And I think that it is, I see Greg's comment. The merger of conferences and the recognizing of rural churches is an interesting contrast. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that what we're seeing in the larger church is really magnified on the local level. There are churches that are consolidating and merging. There are conferences that are consolidating and merging. And what does that mean as we think about 64% of our churches being small town and rural? How do we reconcile all of these numbers. So all of these are really going to be great conversations on the floor and then in our committee meetings where the real work happens before we get to the Synod floor. So at this point, we have come to the conclusion, the formal conclusion of our time. It is 12:46. We're just a minute over. So I would like to just say thank you for those of you who have come today. And for those who have presented and spoken to resolutions, thank you for your insights and wisdom. Thank you for your commitment and for representing the Michigan Conference of the United Church of Christ at this year's 35th General Synod. And we are delighted to continue our support and prayer for you as you travel and you do the work of the church. And I would just like to leave us with this blessing. May God bless us and keep us in all of our days and in all of the ways that will provide us peace and the promise of God's presence with us always. Go in peace, dear friends, and may peace find you every moment of every day because we sure need it. God bless you. And for those who are wanting to stay on and have further conversation,